help, help, please. I'm downstairs.
Okay, who cut you?
This girl I was wanted to return to look at. I'm pregnant.
How far along are you?
7 months. She got me on my stomach.
Can you grab a towel or anything you can get in your hands and put it on your wound and press?
I'm bleeding out.
On March 18, 2015, two pregnant women meet in a Colorado apartment after connecting through a Craigslist ad for maternity clothes. But the encounter turns into a savage ambush, resulting in bloodshed and violence.
Did you have a C-section today?
No, she just came out.
Is there a probability that the baby won't match you?
No, she's mine.
The following is based on official police records, and most of the footage has never been seen before. At 2:30 p.m., Longmont 911 dispatchers receive a call from a woman struggling to remain conscious.
Green, please.
I can't understand the street.
Green, please.
Green place. Green like the color?
Yeah.
Tell me what happened.
She cut me.
Who cut you?
Downstairs. I don't know.
Okay, hold on.
Responded to.
Hang on. Hold on.
Please. I'm downstairs.
Okay, who cut you?
This girl I was wanted to return to look at.
What did she cut you with?
A knife. I'm pregnant. She got me on my stomach.
Okay.
I'm afraid.
She cut you in your stomach?
I'm pregnant.
Okay. What is the suspect's name?
I don't remember. I'm bleeding out.
I know you need to stay on the phone with me, okay? I'm getting everybody to you, okay?
With first responders on their way, the dispatcher tries desperately to keep her talking and collect vital information.
I need you to can you grab a towel or anything you can get in your hands and put it on your wound and press? How far along are you?
7 months.
7 months? Okay. Are you alone in the house?
I don't know.
You stay with me. Don't go to sleep. You stay with me. You're downstairs in the basement? And are you alone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I locked the door.
Don't you go to sleep, okay? You stay on the phone with me. Can you tell me, did she have any other weapons besides a knife?
She broke a glass.
She broke a glass? Did she stab you with the broken glass also?
Yeah.
Okay. You need to think real hard and tell me who it is that did this. Tell me the person's name. Think real hard, okay? Don't go to sleep. Stay with me. Tell me who it is.
I don't know. Help.
Everybody's on their way, okay?
Is that them?
Okay.
Are they ringing the doorbell? She cannot get to it.
Help.
Got everybody coming, okay? You hang with me. Don't hang up. Are they in the house yet?
She's downstairs?
Yeah, they're here.
Okay, I'll let you go.
A trail of blood and faint cries for help guide officers to the basement of an apartment, where they discover the victim, 26-year-old Michelle Wilkins, lying on a bed and clutching her lower abdomen. Close by, a broken bottle and blood-stained knife hint at a violent encounter. But her assailant, who she knows only as D, is nowhere to be found. Michelle tells officers that she's pregnant, but to their horror, it appears the baby may have been cut from her womb. She also appears to have been stabbed in the neck. They race Michelle in critical condition to Longmont Hospital, where moments earlier another woman had just entered clutching a newborn baby girl, claiming she had just given birth at home. The woman, 34-year-old Dynel Lane, and her fiancé Dave are tended to by hospital staff. But when officers at the crime scene realize they're standing inside Dynel's apartment, investigators move in to question her story.
I have my pants on, so I felt her coming out.
And how many babies have you had? 2? I heard you say daughters.
I have 2 daughters.
Okay.
By this point, Dynel's fiancé Dave had left the hospital to pick up Dynel's 2 daughters from school and wasn't present in the room.
So you're not sure how far along you were? Can you give a guess?
Honestly, I wish I could give you that answer. I think the first time I felt her move was in July or August. Just little, flutterby's, but...
And what are the cuts on your hand?
You know what? I don't know. I didn't even, when I came upstairs and she said that I cut my hand.
Okay. Okay, was anyone with you at your house today?
No, I've been by myself all day.
Okay.
Dynel's hand has several cuts, including one deep gash between her thumb and index finger.
Why don't you let them look at that and you don't have to put the baby down, just one hand at a time. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Are you bleeding badly?
I don't think so.
And you said you're not sure how that happened?
Yeah,
Okay. Looks like you may need some stitches, and I'm not even a doctor.
You need some stitches, sweetie. So you don't know how you got these big cuts?
no.
Those are some pretty big cuts.
Given Dynel's claims she just gave birth, an obstetrician enters for a routine checkup.
Can I just feel your uterus? I just want to make sure. I'm one of the OB doctors, Dr. Nelson. I just want to make sure.
So I'm going to put your head
I
down.
just want to look and see if you're having any bleeding, okay?
I don't want to.
You don't have to let her go.
So what time did you have the baby?
I'm sorry. I don't remember what time it was.
Have you done any blood work yet?
Not yet. She won't let us start an IV or something yet.
Once she declines the exam, investigators waste no time confronting Dynel with what they know.
Okay, Dynel, I've got a problem. There's a young girl in the apartment, and she was cut because we've got officers there right now.
At my house?
Yes. Do you know how that happened?
I don't. There wasn't anybody there when I left.
Okay.
It was just me and my husband when we left.
Okay. Any chance that your girls were there?
No, they've been at school all day.
Okay. You don't know anything about the woman that was in your apartment?
No, I don't.
Okay.
There wasn't anybody there.
Police on scene locate Michelle's phone, the screen cracked and splattered with blood. Text messages exchanged between the two women suggest Michelle was planning to meet her to pick up clothes and arrived at her home around 11:51 a.m.
Well, unfortunately, I'm trying to figure some things out.
Okay.
And I'm going to need some help to do it.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you right now, things just aren't adding up. Because the young woman in your apartment has been injured very badly.
Okay.
I asked if you had any visitors today because we got a call to your apartment. When we got to your apartment, we found a young lady who had been cut open. Okay? She had a baby
Okay.
in her stomach that had been cut out. Okay? That woman was transferred here,
Okay.
and she arrived here probably a few minutes after you did by ambulance.
Hospital staff met with Michelle's boyfriend, providing him with an update on her current condition.
Okay. So it sounds like we've got where they just finished up in the operating room and they're taking her to the ICU. Okay. Which means they've got her, they found a way to get the bleeding stopped. Okay. The surgeon will be able to tell you what all they did and what they had to fix and everything like that. But she made it to surgery just fine. She likely will still have the breathing tube in that I put in and be breathing for her, okay? Just because she's so sick, okay? She lost a lot of blood.
Can I see her?
It's there. I know they're going to get her, she's going to go from the operating room through recovery to the ICU, so it's going to be a little bit to get her stabilized and all that. But I think as soon as they can, they'll let you see her.
What the fuck happened?
That's why these guys are here.
Was she just physically assaulted?
She was also sick. Yeah.
Was she sexually assaulted?
Oh, that I don't know.
By this point, the authorities were still piecing together the details themselves. However, the circumstances were enough to suspect the infant belonged to Michelle, and the newborn girl was separated from Dynel and kept under police watch.
Is it your wife or your girlfriend?
Friend.
How long have you been dating?
Well, we've been friends for like 8 years. And then in August at a friend's wedding, we hooked up. He was living in North Carolina at the time, and we talked about it. And decided to try raising a kid together.
Were you all advertising to sell anything online?
So we were looking for various furniture. We had a lot of decorating to do.
Right.
And she has been doing Craigslist stuff.
With Michelle on a breathing tube and unable to answer questions, investigators turn to Dynel for answers. Despite the growing evidence against her, Dynel continues to claim that the baby she brought to the hospital is her own.
Is there anything truthful right now you want to tell me, Dynel?
I don't know what's going on, sir. I really wish I did. I'm just about as confused as you guys are.
When were you due? What's your due date?
We haven't been able to go to the doctor. It's been such a mess.
Do you have an approximate time? Like what month?
I wish I could tell you.
Did you have a C-section today or just regular delivery?
No, she came out. She just came out.
Vaginal?
Yeah.
Okay. But that was at your house?
Felt like, I mean, it just, I can't even explain it. It just, that little...
Pretty quick event?
I mean, I walked up the stairs. I think I was halfway up the top stairs when she came out.
Was your husband home at the time, or?
He was on his way home, and he walked in the door. I don't know.
Back at the apartment, Dave pulled up in a silver sedan, only to find a strong police presence. Officers noted Dave had a large blood smear on the back of his right hand and spots of blood on his clothes. He told officers he arrived home at around 2:15 p.m. to take Dynel to a prenatal checkup. According to his statement, he explained he made it to the last basement step before Dynel appeared covered in blood, stating she had just given birth. After finding the baby upstairs in the bathtub, he raced the two to the hospital, never knowing he was one step away from the horrors police would soon find in the basement. Back at the hospital, investigators discussed the situation out of Dynel's earshot.
I knew things didn't add up when she said she felt the baby move last July.
She's got pictures on Facebook. They're saying she's pregnant last March. Like a year ago, March, right?
Dynel's Facebook page, which lists her as an assistant manager at Once Upon a Child, contains several photos of Dynel, who appears pregnant as early as March of 2014. Officers also found registries on the bump and pregnancy corner stating her due date in November. Based on this information, officers conclude she would have a 4 or 5 month-old baby by now.
So you know that the blood tests are really going to confirm or deny exactly what's going on?
Yeah, that's what she said.
And if there is something, like I said, there's something strange right now is the best time to admit to what may have happened before the tests come back, because if that happens, it's probably going to look a little bad, a little more worse for you, you know? Is there a probability that the DNA for the baby won't match you?
No, she's mine.
However, Michelle is still unconscious and fitted with a breathing tube. Whether investigators will hear her side of the story depends entirely on her survival. The detective makes it clear to Dynel where the investigation stands at this point.
I just spoke with the nurse. You don't appear as if you just had a baby. You have a large cut on your hand that you can't explain. And we have a lot of stuff that went on over at your house that we can't explain.
Okay.
I don't believe that's your baby. And I need to find that out.
As a DNA test threatens to bring the truth to light, Dynel braces to tell her story. However, what she reveals is nowhere near what anyone expected to hear.
I put an ad on Craigslist for some maternity clothes that I had that don't fit because I had gotten a lot bigger and they just didn't fit.
The ad offered the items for free. Dynel explained that Michelle was one of many who responded and that she came to the house this morning to pick them up.
And we stood there and we talked about my kids and we talked about just anything. I mean, I don't know. I don't really get to talk to anybody during the day, so it was kind of nice to talk to somebody. And then the doorbell rang.
Dynel explains that the mailman arrived with a package containing essential oils that she was planning to sell, which she opened with a knife. Afterward, she showed Michelle some baby clothes, but Michelle wasn't interested.
I asked her, I said, I have an extra baby bag thing. I said, do you need one? And she said, let me look at it first. She said she didn't want it. And I was like, okay, well, she's like, well, I need to go. I was like, okay. So I turned around and before I knew it, she had, I think it was a knife that I had opened my box with that had been sitting on the counter. Mm-hmm. That's, I think, how I cut my hand. But she came at me and I just kind of reacted, and then we ended up in my daughter's room and she just kept trying to hit me. And I asked her, I was like, what are you doing? I'm like, stop. And I mean, defending myself, I was grasping at her and she was grasping at me. And like, I finally had gotten to the point where I had her down and I'm like, just stop. And she was just flailing, but she wouldn't stop. Like, and it just seemed like every time I would kind of get leverage, she would come at me again. She kept trying to punch me and she was like trying to bite me.
What happened next?
I think I choked her.
It wasn't until the following day that officers observed injuries to Michelle's neck, which had not been visible when she was first found. It appeared as though Michelle had been severely strangled.
It was a struggle. It was a big struggle. And I was yelling. I was trying to maybe get my neighbors to hear me. And I was trying to grab for her phone, but she, I think, had a lock on it. I'm not sure, but I was like, I need to call 911. And I strangled her because she wouldn't stop.
Okay.
Was she saying anything to you?
I don't remember. I don't think so. She wouldn't stop.
Do you have any other injuries on your person besides your hand? Yeah. Why do you think your hand is so swollen? Did you hit something or?
I think I hit her back, and I'm not sure if I hit her in the wall when I was laying on the bed and she was over me and she was trying to hit me, but she wasn't hitting me. Like, during the struggle, I think we kind of flipped over and I was on her.
Dynel goes on to reveal the horrifying decision that followed.
After she stopped moving, I got scared and I started thinking about the baby. I thought I killed her. I was like, I killed this woman. They always tell you not to do things by yourself on Craigslist, but I didn't. It was a pregnant woman. I didn't think anything of it. I thought I killed her, and I didn't want the baby to die too. I'm not this kind of person. I don't do stuff like this. Like, I didn't know what to do.
We're not judging you, Dynel.
I know. I'm judging myself. What do you do in a situation like that? Like, I reacted. I got the knife that she had, and I tried to get the baby out.
Okay, is that the baby that's in the other room?
That's her baby.
Okay.
She's not mine. She's not mine.
Okay.
Following the critical admission that the child was not in fact her own, she reveals what happened next.
The girl was moaning and she was crying. No, she wasn't crying. She was just making like breathing sounds. And I got scared.
Okay. Where'd you put the baby when you took the baby upstairs?
In the bathtub. It was empty. I just sat her in there.
Okay. Okay, so she was moaning and making some noise.
I know I should have said something then, but I didn't. I just got scared. I just left her there.
Okay, and when your husband came in, what happened?
Oh, the baby was in the bathtub.
Whose baby did he think it was?
Ours.
Are you pregnant? Did he think you've been pregnant?
I wanted to tell him so bad. I was pregnant.
When were you pregnant?
April 1st last year.
Okay.
But it was his first baby. And I never thought I could have another one after I lost my son.
Dynel shares that her son passed away 12 years ago when he was just 18 months old, the details of which will later come to light.
My girls had been through so much. I wanted to just another lost baby. I felt like it was my fault. I didn't go to the doctor, and I didn't tell him that I lost a baby.
What was your plan?
I don't know. I was going to tell him so many times, and he'd ask me, what was going on, and everybody was confused.
What were they confused about?
Just why it was taking so long.
Detectives began speaking with people close to Dynel to get more information about her pregnancy and behavior leading up to the attack. One friend mentioned seeing her on the 4th of July weekend, 9 months before the attack.
And did she look pregnant?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. She had like a little belly. She had like just a little baby bump that was taken in June.
Investigators also spoke with Dynel's 2 teenage daughters, who at this point knew very little about the unfolding situation.
When was she due, you know? She was due first in December, and we moved it to November, and then she was back again. Could you tell that your mom was getting bigger and the baby was ready to come or anything? Not really. She was kind of small for being pregnant.
Mom said she's going to have a little boy named James.
Dynel's family hosted a baby shower for little James in September of 2014, when Dynel would have been 7 or 8 months pregnant. The jungle-themed party featured a cake reading, "Welcome, James."
Was she pretty excited? Yeah. How about David? Was he excited? This was his first time. Being a father, so he was really excited.
But the excitement began to wane after Dynel's due date came and went. Still, she kept up the facade, telling her friend pregnancy has been such a nightmare, blaming doctors for incorrect due dates. In several messages to one woman, Dynel claimed to have already had the baby, stating it was a natural birth. Several photos of a baby boy were found on her cell phone, but investigators traced the image to a public website. However, by March 2015, nearly 4 months after she was supposed to give birth, she still appeared pregnant to Dave.
She just wouldn't tell me anything, and then she kept saying she set up appointments and stuff like that, and we're ready to go, and then something would happen, and we wouldn't go. I was frustrated because I didn't know what was going on with the pregnancy. I thought there might have been something wrong with the baby or something wrong with her, and she wasn't telling me. And I was so stressed out because I'd ask her every other day, when can we go? Let's go to the emergency room right now. Let's go check it out.
Pretty much throughout this whole year, he's been trying to get her to a doctor, and when she, every time it was a time for her to go, something would happen.
Dave describes one instance where he finally went with her to an appointment, but it didn't go as expected.
Yeah, and she didn't even sign and didn't even do anything. We're just sitting in this waiting room like fools, and people are looking at us like, people are going in and going out, and we're just sitting there.
Did that happen a lot? Or?
It happened quite a few times. It happened at the salute place up here at least 3 times. There was a milestone at the hospital. We went there, and they were like, we don't even know who you are. You're not in our system.
I mean, once you're just sitting there, what caused?
She would get upset. She'd be like, we're not going to be seen. They don't want to help us. And throw a fit, and then we'd leave. She'd be like, I'm done with this. Let's go.
After they left the appointment, Dynel returned the same night, but this time, she went alone.
And they came back and showed me the wristband from the emergency room so that they could prove to me that she went. Yeah. And then she had a recording of a heartbeat on the phone, and she was like, this is our son's heartbeat. And told me he was 128 beats a minute. This is it. And I listened to that thing for days. Yeah. And I was like,
what's going on?
Yeah. One thing I'd like to know is, if she was ever pregnant at any point in the last year.
The answer to Dave's question may remain unanswered, and a shocking revelation from one of her friends only deepens the mystery.
Did you ever know her to have any other miscarriages?
No. After all this has happened, I feel like we put a lot on her. And maybe it's just a friend feeling guilty, but we made this baby to be the miracle baby because she couldn't have the kids. You know what I mean? Died, she wanted another one and she couldn't, she was fixed.
You knew she had she was fixed?
Mm-hmm.
One of her 2 ex-husbands, Chris, also shared this claim with investigators.
Did you guys ever talk about having kids?
No, because right off the bat, she told me that her tubes were tied, so.
She told you right off the bat?
Yeah, a couple weeks in or whatever, but.
After you were married or when you were?
Just still dating.
Okay.
Yeah, and she told me about her son that she lost with her previous ex-husband and everything.
Okay.
Jason, her first ex-husband and the father of her 2 daughters, shared what happened to their son and how the loss impacted Dynel.
He drowned in a pond. It was at their grandparents' house, and she just lost track of him, and he wandered out into the back. And
Dynel lost track of him?
Yeah.
Okay, and it was.
She was there with them. I was out picking up a swing set with her dad.
Okay.
And she lost track of him, and he wandered out into the backyard pond and fell in there. And she found him, tried to do CPR.
Okay.
But we ended up losing him. He was 18 months old.
How'd Dynel take that?
She took it hard.
Took it hard.
She took it hard. I tried to be as supportive as I could during that time, but that's a mother losing a child.
Yeah, totally.
It's gonna mess with.
Did you notice a real change in her?
To be honest with you, yeah. I mean, we ended up divorced.
In her interview with investigators, Dynel admitted to having the procedure.
Girl stabbed me to get my tubes tight because he didn't want any more children. And it was a few months after that my son died.
The weirdest thing was she said it sucked that like her tubes were tight because we would have such a cute baby, and that was about it. But after we broke up, I know she told my one friend Selena that she had a miscarriage while we were together, and I was like, how is that even possible? Like, her tubes are tied. So
how long did you know her before then, before you got married?
Maybe 4 months. It was kind of stupid, just real quick. We thought we were in love. Yeah.
Well, love is blind.
Yeah.
That was the best of us.
Hey, I'm glad it didn't work out.
Jason explains he learned about what happened when his daughter posted about it on Facebook, leaving him concerned with how much the girls know regarding the situation with their mother.
I don't know how much they know now. I would guess they know a fair amount based on just all the media coverage. A lot of it's out in the press. Some of it, like I said, is not totally accurate. Some of it's more accurate. The general story, everyone knows the general story.
She did show up in the hospital, though?
Dynel?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she was contacted at the hospital.
All right, and then the other part of the story that I want to confirm is she actually did remove the fetus from the mother?
That's what it looks like.
During questioning, investigators didn't disclose what happened to either teenager. The oldest was understandably confused, having just returned from school to find police at her house.
I want to know what's going on. Why was the house blocked off? Right. It's not what you're expecting, right? Mom said she has a baby and now the house is blocked off. It doesn't seem to go together.
It's clear the experience left a deep mark as Dynel's oldest daughter struggled to hold back tears in the interview room. The youngest was left confused, writing in a statement, "This whole thing is pretty weird. I just wish I knew what is happening. I just want to go home and have a normal life again." In addition to speaking with family and friends, investigators attempted to get information from Dynel's co-workers at Once Upon a Child, but the manager confirmed she's never been employed with any of their stores.
Never had anything like this ever happen to me. I've never, even in school, I never hit anyone. Why would somebody do that to you? I mean, I just don't understand. I know it looks so much worse on my part because I had to defend myself. And then if I did something really bad, I need to go to jail. I've always been that person. I thought about that for everybody else, and I never thought it would ever have to be me. But
what should happen to the other lady, you think?
I don't know.
Do you think she's a guilty person for what happened, or is she more of an innocent person?
I don't know.
Can I ask you a question? You described it one way. I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a minute, okay? Could you have possibly felt the need to have a child, and because of such, you went after her?
No, I didn't. Honestly, I've been wanting to tell my husband that I wasn't pregnant for quite a while. It was just kind of trying to find the words to tell him.
So why would you tell your baby upstairs?
I think it was just kind of like a moment's reaction, and I didn't know what to do.
Dave would later reveal an important detail to police that may shed light on Dynel's decision. For now, Dynel finally asks about Michelle's condition.
You know what happened to her.
So I do know she's out of surgery, whether it be stitched up or I don't know how bad she was and things like that.
Is she alive?
Yes, she's
alive. Oh.
Well, last that I know.
I'm glad she's okay. I hope she's okay.
Against all odds, Michelle survived the brutal attack. Nearly 2 weeks later, still recovering from her injuries, she sat down with detectives to deliver an emotional account of the horrors she endured in that basement on March 18th.
Can tell which rooms are for the suspects and which are for the victims. Actually, I interview my suspects in this room. Really? Mm-hmm. Make them more comfortable. Yes. It works. How are you feeling today? I don't know. It's so unreal. I had a lot of vivid dreams. And I just woke up a lot last night. It's like some nights I sleep all the way through and sometimes wake up a lot.
Working through that. It's going to take time. It's not one of those things you get over right away. You'll probably never get over it. You'll get through it.
I had, I had a panic attack afterwards, and, really late at night, and, scared the crap out of me. So,
how's he doing?
It's hard to say because, a lot of his energy is dedicated towards, helping me in a lot of ways, but it's, I really want him to come to therapy because it's, both of us. This happened to both of us.
Michelle begins by explaining what happened when she first arrived at Dynel's apartment.
So when I got there, I didn't really have anything to do. There wasn't a rush, and she talked about how, kind of lonely she was because her daughters would get home from school and didn't want to hang out, and her husband
She referred to him as husband a lot.
Okay. Yeah, so her husband would, go to the gym right after he got home work really late, so she kind of, it sounded lonely, and, every time I was kind of oh, well, I'm gonna go do this, and she would just keep talking, so I was just maybe she's just like that, she's just lonely.
When you're talking, did she say she was pregnant? Or
yeah, she said it was due any day now, and she, had a belly. I thought she looked really small. When I saw her, I thought, man, she's skinny to be, over 9 months pregnant. She said it was due, March 3rd, and that was late, so it was supposed to come any time. She was asking me, if I needed anything. And I said, that we pretty much had it, all we needed was a crib.
When you talked about having a girl, do you remember what she said?
I just remember her kind of saying nice things about having girls. She's had 2, and I think she started talking about her girls and how much I think she said something to the effect of that she liked girls better, that it was yeah. I just remember her saying positive things about girls, but I don't remember specifically what she said.
Okay. When you guys were talking, were you down in the entryway? Were you upstairs?
Sure, upstairs, standing. We had gone to the bedroom, and we had gone through the clothes, and she took out stuff she thought would be too big for me, and then put it all in a plastic bag.
Things took a dark turn when Michelle made the decision to leave.
Eventually, I just started walking towards the door, and that's when the door was open. I just feel like such an idiot for not leaving then.
Don't beat yourself up over it.
Right there. You're right at the door. She actually closed it in front of me and said, oh, I think I have some stuff for you downstairs. She reached over in front of me and closed the door. Let me show you some stuff downstairs. And I think I have some girl clothes.
She followed Dynel into the basement, unaware that she would soon be fighting for her life.
She actually looked like she was rummaging through some stuff to find stuff. Yeah, so that's when she was kind of looking through stuff. And I sort of just started backing out at that point. I was no, I really don't need anything. And so I just started walking out instead of leaving. But it's really nice for you, thanks for letting me see your lovely home.
This is when Michelle attempted to leave for a second time.
So you went back toward the stairs, and she was still behind you?
Yeah.
Do you remember where you were standing when she first hit you in the chest?
She hit me from behind.
She hit her from behind. Okay.
And I asked her, I thought it's there was a spider on me or something, because she hit me really hard with the flat of her palm as I was going up the stairs.
Okay.
And that's when I was did I have a spider on me? And she said, I think I got it. And she pulled my sweater and swung me around facing the other direction and started lifting up my sweater really roughly and I was what the hell is on my back, and I was just turned around and was hey, what are you doing? And she was you hit me, this is my house, what are you doing? And I was just I thank you for the baby clothes, I don't want to hurt you, I just want to leave. And that's when she started saying that she wanted to call the cops and trying to shove me into the bathroom.
And you didn't get into the bathroom at all?
No, I was and that's when I kind of resisted with my body and was the whole situation was just fucking bizarre. I didn't do anything, I just wanted to leave.
Michelle's story is corroborated by what she told dispatchers in her 911 call. as she struggled to maintain consciousness following the attack.
Were you having a fight?
I was leaving.
You were just trying to leave?
While Michelle's recollection is fuzzy after that, evidence indicates she was strangled and bashed over the head with a glass lava lamp. During her first hospital interview, she recalled Dynel saying, "If you love me, you'll let me do this," before stabbing her in the neck with a broken edge of the lava lamp. Then, Michelle lost consciousness. It was after this that Dynel took a knife and began performing a procedure known as a cesarean section. A doctor who examined Michelle's wound at the hospital told investigators it was well performed, and to achieve the level of accuracy, one would have to have researched the procedure. While no such research was found on her phone or laptop, it's worth mentioning that Dynel was a former certified nursing assistant. Blood smeared on the washer and dryer, as well as glass shards found inside the washing machine, indicated Dynel attempted to clean up the crime scene before her fiancé Dave arrived home unexpectedly. According to his written statement, Dynel called him to see if he'd left work yet and asked him to go run an errand at her daughter's school. She sounded out of breath, so he made the decision to go home and check on her, only to find her covered in blood, claiming to have just given birth at home. They left for the hospital, which provided Michelle the opportunity to call for help.
Ready to be done? Okay. It's hard to get over. It's like the one thing I kept asking, like the whole time it was happening, it was just like, why?
Investigators learned that Dave's suspicions had reached a breaking point. Dave confided in a friend who shared his concerns with his wife, Kimberly. She then posted the information to a Facebook group, stating that Dynel's whole pregnancy has been sketchy, adding that she's several months overdue and refusing to go to the doctor. The post caught the attention of a bereavement doula named Elizabeth, who stated this is a red flag, adding that if she's desperate, she may do the unmentionable and harm the mother and take the baby. Iwu reached out to Elizabeth, who told us she was kicked out of the Facebook group for suggesting this outcome was a possibility. 1 month following the Facebook post, Dynel told a friend she wanted to meet her roommate who was pregnant and stopped by their house. However, the roommate wasn't home. It's unclear if she'd been actively searching for a victim at the time. However, one thing was certain: Dynel's time was running out. She messaged a friend on Facebook in late February, revealing that Dave was ready to call it quits.
I gave her an ultimatum. I was like, by the 1st of March, I want to go to a doctor's appointment with you. And if that doesn't happen, then I don't know if I can do this anymore.
In a series of text messages between Dave and a man named John, he writes, "She's been lying to me. She has an appointment, and if I don't go to this one and find out what the hell is going on, she's gone." The appointment, which her daughter believed was to induce a labor, was set for March 16th, but was missed and rescheduled for the afternoon of March 18th. That morning, Dynel lured Michelle to her home, viciously attacked her, and stole her baby. She then brought the premature baby girl to the hospital, but the infant showed no signs of life. Michelle and her boyfriend were briefly reunited with their daughter, who weighed just over 3 pounds, and named her Aurora. 34-year-old Dynel Lane was charged with multiple counts, including first-degree attempted murder, 2 counts of first-degree assault with a deadly weapon causing serious bodily injury, 2 counts of second-degree assault causing injury with a deadly weapon, and unlawful termination of pregnancy in the first degree. She entered a plea of not guilty, but was ultimately found guilty of all charges at her trial in February 2016 and sentenced to 100 years in prison. She's currently serving her sentence at the Denver Women's Correctional Facility in Colorado.
Part 1. The Anatomy of a Deception. Chapter 1. The Ghost in the Nursery. The lie began not as a shout, but as a whisper. It was a phantom hope that took root in the barren soil of profound grief. For Dynel Lane, the world had fractured 12 years prior, on a placid afternoon that held the sharp, metallic tang of tragedy. Her son, a vibrant toddler of just 18 months, had slipped from the periphery of her attention for only a handful of minutes. It was a lapse that any parent could experience, a brief turn of the head, a momentary distraction. But in that sliver of time, the world had tilted on its axis. He was found in the family pond, a small, still form in the murky water, the laughter forever silenced. The official cause was drowning, a tragic accident. But for Dynel, it was a self-inflicted wound that never scabbed over. It became the defining narrative of her existence, Guilt was the air she breathed, the food that sustained her. In the quiet moments, she could still feel the weight of his small body in her arms as she performed frantic, useless CPR, her pleas swallowed by an indifferent sky. The loss was not just of a child, but of a piece of her own soul, the part that believed in safety, in her own competence as a mother, as a protector. Her first husband, Jason, the father of her 2 daughters and the son she lost, watched her retreat into a fortress of sorrow. He tried to reach her, to share the burden, but grief is a solitary confinement. The shared loss became a chasm between them, and their marriage crumbled under the weight of what was unsaid. She carried the tragedy like a shroud, and it colored every interaction, every decision that followed. A subsequent marriage to a man named Chris was a brief, ill-fated attempt to outrun the ghosts. It was during this period that she made a decision that would ripple forward with devastating consequences. Convinced by her husband, who did not want more children, and perhaps by a part of herself that feared repeating the ultimate failure, she had her fallopian tubes tied. The procedure was a physical manifestation of a psychological reality. The door to motherhood, for her, was closed and bolted. It was a final, sterile finality. But a heart, even one scarred by grief and sealed by surgery, can still yearn. After her divorce from Chris, she met David Ridley, a man who saw not the broken woman, but the potential for a new beginning. Dave was kind, stable, and he wanted a family. More than anything, he wanted a son. He spoke of first steps and Little League games, of a legacy to carry his name. For Dynel, his desires were a siren song, a chance to rewrite her own tragic story. To give him a child would be a form of redemption, a way to prove to him and to herself that she was not defined by the one she had lost. And so, the whisper of a lie was born. It started subtly. A missed period she didn't actually have. A hint of morning sickness she performed with theatrical accuracy. Dave, blinded by love and hope, saw what he wanted to see. The lie was a seed, and his desperate desire for a child was the fertile ground. He nurtured it, celebrated it. The first phantom pregnancy of 2014 was a dress rehearsal. She bought maternity clothes, let her belly relax and push forward after meals, and mastered the art of rubbing it with a serene maternal glow. She posted sonogram pictures on her Facebook page, grainy, black and white images she downloaded from the internet. She named the phantom child James. Her daughters, now teenagers, were swept up in the narrative. They had lost a brother they barely knew, and the promise of a new one was intoxicating. Friends and family, unaware of the tubal ligation, celebrated with her. They threw a jungle-themed baby shower in September, complete with a cake that read, "Welcome, James." Dynel smiled for the pictures, a loving hand on her bump. The lie nestled comfortably beneath layers of deception and a strategically padded bra. But a pregnancy, real or imagined, has a deadline. November, her supposed due date, came and went. The questions started, gentle at first. "Any day now," she'd say with a cheerful, strained smile. "He's just a little stubborn." December arrived. The questions became more pointed. Dave grew anxious. His dream was so close, he could taste it. But it remained stubbornly just out of reach. Dynel became a master of obfuscation. She blamed the doctors for miscalculating the due date. She complained of complications that required bed rest, conveniently isolating herself. She invented appointments and fabricated medical updates. The lie grew, becoming a complex, sprawling entity that required constant maintenance. It was exhausting. The stress was a physical weight, pressing down on her, even as she feigned the burdens of a late-term pregnancy. To her friends, she sent text messages detailing a fictional birth. "James is here," she wrote. "A beautiful, natural delivery." She stole photos of a newborn from a parenting website and passed them off as her own, a digital kidnapping that foreshadowed the physical one to come. But she couldn't produce a real baby. The lie had reached a dead end. She claimed the baby was sick, in the NICU, a convenient excuse to keep visitors away. Eventually, as the weeks turned into months, the story of James simply faded away. She told a few people she had a miscarriage, a new tragedy to layer over the old one, a shield to deflect further questions. For Dave, the story was murkier, a confusing fog of medical excuses and delayed timelines that eventually dissipated into nothing. The ghost in the nursery vanished. The pressure, however, did not. Dave's disappointment was a palpable thing, a silent accusation in their shared home. His dream had been snatched away, and Dynel knew she was the thief. The failure of the first phantom pregnancy didn't dissuade her. It only made her more desperate. She had to succeed. This time, she would not be caught by the unyielding logic of a calendar. This time, she needed a better plan. Chapter 2. The Ultimatum. The second phantom pregnancy began almost immediately after the first one evaporated. It was born not of hope, but of pure, uncut desperation. Dynel couldn't bear the thought of Dave leaving her, of being alone again with her ghosts. So she resurrected the lie, breathing new life into it, with the practiced ease of a seasoned con artist. Once again, she announced she was pregnant. Once again, Dave, a man seemingly addicted to hope, allowed himself to believe. Perhaps he ignored the inconsistencies, the sheer improbability of it all, because the alternative that the woman he loved was weaving an impossible fantasy was too monstrous to contemplate. The charade started anew. The maternity clothes came out of storage. The belly was padded. The talk of cravings and fluttery first kicks filled their home. But this time, the lie had a harder, more dangerous edge. The previous year's experience had taught her that a due date was a ticking time bomb. She couldn't let the clock run out again. Dave, too, had been changed by the first experience. His hope was now tinged with a corrosive suspicion. The disappointment had left a scar. He loved Dynel, but the bizarre, vanishing act of James had planted a seed of doubt that he could no longer ignore. He became more insistent. He wanted to go to the doctor's appointments. He wanted to see a sonogram, to hear the heartbeat for himself. Dynel, a master of evasion, always had an excuse. The doctor had to reschedule. They only allow one person in the room because of a new policy. I don't want to jinx it. Each excuse was a small stone added to the wall she was building around her lie. But the wall was beginning to crumble. Her online activity during this period became a dark mirror of her intentions. She spent hours on pregnancy forums, not as an expectant mother, but as a predator studying its prey. She researched late-term pregnancy, emergency home births, and, most chillingly, how to perform a rudimentary cesarean section. The search history on her laptop would later read like a blueprint for a horror film. She was no longer just faking a pregnancy. She was plotting an acquisition. The pressure from Dave intensified. In February 2015, his patience finally snapped. The conversation was not a dramatic explosion, but a quiet, firm drawing of a line in the sand. "Dee," he said, his voice heavy with a pain he couldn't fully articulate, "I can't do this anymore. This uncertainty. I need to be a part of this. I need to go to an appointment with you. I need to see a doctor. See our baby." He looked at her, his eyes pleading. "I'm giving you an ultimatum. By the 1st of March, we go to a doctor together. Or I don't know if I can stay." The words hung in the air, cold and sharp as shards of glass. An ultimatum, a deadline, the very thing she had tried to avoid. The walls were closing in. The lie, which had been her shield, was now her cage. Her desperation escalated into a frantic, active search. The plan, which had been a nebulous, dark fantasy, began to crystallize. She needed a baby. Not a phantom, not a stolen picture, but a living, breathing infant. And to get a baby, she needed a mother. A very pregnant mother. Craigslist became her hunting ground. Under the guise of generosity, she posted an ad, free maternity clothes for an expecting mother. It was the perfect lure, appealing to the nesting instincts and financial prudence of women in their third trimester. It was an offer of community, of one mother helping another. But beneath the surface, it was a spider's web, and Dynel was patiently waiting at its center. She received numerous replies. She engaged in friendly, encouraging email exchanges, her words a mask of warmth and shared experience. She was vetting them, probing for details. "How far along are you? Is it a boy or a girl? When are you due?" She was searching for the perfect target, someone far along in her pregnancy, someone trusting, someone who might be willing to come to her home, alone. In early March, a reply landed in her inbox that made her pause. It was from a 26-year-old woman named Michelle Wilkins. The email was bright, cheerful, and full of excitement. Michelle was 7 months pregnant with a baby girl. She had recently moved to Colorado and was eagerly preparing for her daughter's arrival. She was the one. The correspondence between Dee and Michelle was, on the surface, entirely normal. They arranged a time for Michelle to come to the Longmont apartment to pick up the clothes. March 18th. The date was set. Dave's ultimatum had pushed her to this point. He had demanded proof of life. And in her twisted, desperate mind, she had resolved to provide it. The appointment she scheduled with him for the afternoon of March 18th was not for a prenatal checkup. It was for a presentation. The curtain would rise, and she would present him with his child, the bloody, irrefutable proof of her love and her motherhood. The ghost in the nursery was about to be replaced by a stolen child, and the price of that child would be a horror beyond imagining. Part 2. The Collision Course. Chapter 3. A Dream Named Aurora. Michelle Wilkins moved through the world with a quiet, joyful optimism. At 26, she stood on the precipice of a new life, and she embraced it with open arms. The decision to move to Colorado with her partner Dan was a leap of faith, a step towards building a life and a family in the shadow of the Rocky Mountains. The landscape was a perfect metaphor for her own feelings. Vast, beautiful, and full of promise. The pregnancy had been a happy surprise, a delightful turn of events that had filled her days with a new sense of purpose. She was meticulous in her preparations, not out of anxiety, but out of a deep and abiding love for the tiny person growing inside her. She read parenting books, researched strollers, and dreamed of the future. She and Dan had chosen a name for their daughter, Aurora. It meant dawn, a new beginning, and it felt perfect. Michelle was a nurturer by nature. She was the kind of person who remembered birthdays, who listened with genuine interest, who saw the good in people. She believed in kindness, in community, and in the inherent decency of others. This worldview, so central to her character, made her trusting. It was a quality that drew people to her, but it was also a vulnerability she could not have foreseen. Her life in Longmont was a happy whirl of nesting and anticipation. She and Dan were slowly furnishing their new home, turning it into a sanctuary for their soon-to-be family of 3. Money was tight, as it is for many young couples starting out, so Michelle was a savvy and resourceful planner. She browsed online forums, looked for deals, and embraced the idea of second-hand baby items. The thought of using clothes worn by another baby, another mother, didn't bother her. It appealed to her sense of shared experience, of being part of a larger tribe of motherhood. It was this practical, community-minded spirit that led her to Craigslist. When she saw the ad for free maternity clothes, it seemed like a small blessing, a stroke of good fortune. The poster, who signed her emails as D, seemed friendly and kind. Her messages were warm and effusive. "I have so much stuff," D wrote. "It would be a shame for it to go to waste. I'm so happy it can go to another mom who needs it." They exchanged a few more emails. D asked about Michelle's pregnancy, congratulating her on the impending arrival of her daughter. She mentioned her own children, painting a picture of a happy, bustling family life. She presented herself as a fellow traveler on the road of motherhood, a little further down the path, reaching back to offer a helping hand. To Michelle, this was exactly the kind of connection she had hoped to make in her new town. They set the date, Wednesday, March 18th. The morning was bright and crisp, a beautiful late winter day in Colorado. The sun was out, and the snow-capped peaks of the mountains were sharply defined against a brilliant blue sky. Michelle felt a surge of energy and happiness. Dan was at work, and she had the day to herself to run errands. The trip to pick up the clothes was just one item on her to-do list, a pleasant task on a pleasant day. As she drove to the address D had given her, she felt no sense of dread, no premonition of danger. Why would she? She was a pregnant woman on her way to meet another mother, to accept a gift freely offered. It was an act of kindness, a simple human transaction. The world, for Michelle Wilkins, was a place where such things happened every day. She was thinking about Aurora, about the tiny dresses and onesies she might find. She was humming along to the radio, her hand resting protectively on her round belly, a gesture that was both unconscious and deeply instinctual. She was a mother protecting her child, driving towards a woman who saw her not as a fellow mother, but as a vessel. Chapter 4. The Open Door. The house was a modest, unassuming 2-story apartment in a quiet Longmont neighborhood. It looked like any other home on the street. There were no warning signs, no hint of the darkness that lurked within. Michelle parked her car, grabbed her purse, and walked to the front door, the bag of clothes she'd brought to carry her new things swinging from her arm. Dynel Lane opened the door with a wide, welcoming smile. She looked normal. She was in her mid-30s, with a friendly face. She had a noticeable belly, which to Michelle's eye looked like that of a woman in the final, weary stages of pregnancy. Dynel immediately put her at ease, launching into a stream of cheerful, incessant chatter. Come in, come in. I'm so glad you could make it, Dynel said, her voice a little breathless. Excuse the mess. My 2 daughters keep me so busy, and with this one on the way any day now. She patted her stomach. You know how it is. Michelle smiled. I'm just starting to learn. She stepped inside. The apartment was tidy, filled with the ordinary clutter of family life. Photos on the wall showed 2 smiling teenage girls. It felt safe. It felt normal. Dynel led her upstairs to a bedroom. I've got a bunch of stuff sorted for you in here, she explained. They spent the next hour together. And for Michelle, it felt like an extended, slightly one-sided coffee date. Dynel was a talker. She talked about her daughters, about how they were teenagers now and didn't want to hang out with her anymore. She talked about her husband Dave, how he worked late, and then went to the gym, leaving her feeling lonely most evenings. Michelle listened patiently, interjecting with her own experiences when she could. She found herself feeling a pang of sympathy for this woman. Dynel seemed isolated, a bit lonely, and desperate for adult conversation. Michelle, who was naturally empathetic, lingered longer than she had planned, not wanting to be rude. Dynel showed her the maternity clothes, piling them into Michelle's bag. She kept finding more things, pulling items from the closet. Oh, you'll love this top. It's so comfortable. This dress was a lifesaver in my last month. She talked about her own pregnancy, complaining that she was overdue. Her due date was March 3rd, she said, so the baby was late. She seemed a little stressed about it, a feeling Michelle could understand. The conversation felt intimate. Dynel asked about Michelle's plans, about her baby girl. When Michelle mentioned the name Aurora, Dynel cooed. What a beautiful name. Girls are the best. I love my girls so much. The hour passed in a blur of conversation. Finally, Michelle knew she had to leave. She had other errands to run. Well, this has been so lovely, she said, moving towards the stairs. Thank you so much for the clothes. It's so generous of you. Of course, Dynel said, following close behind her. Michelle walked down the stairs and towards the front door. The visit was over. She had a bag full of clothes and a pleasant story to tell Dan about the nice, if slightly lonely, woman she had met. She reached for the doorknob. It was in that moment that the atmosphere shifted. The change was subtle at first, a flicker in Dynel's eyes, a tension in her shoulders that hadn't been there before. As Michelle's hand touched the door, Dynel's voice cut through the air. Oh, wait! I just remembered. I think I have some more baby girl clothes downstairs. Some really cute stuff my girls outgrew ages ago. Before Michelle could politely decline, Dynel reached past her and closed the front door, the click of the latch unnervingly loud in the sudden quiet. She stood between Michelle and the exit. Just come take a look, Dynel insisted, her smile suddenly looking less friendly and more like a mask. It will only take a second. A small, cold knot of unease began to form in Michelle's stomach. It was just a feeling, a prickle of instinct she couldn't quite name. Why had she closed the door? But she dismissed it. She was being silly. This woman was just being nice, overly eager perhaps, but kind. To refuse would be rude. Okay, Michelle said, her voice a little hesitant. Just for a quick look. I really do have to get going. It'll be quick, Dynel promised, her smile fixed in place. She turned and led the way towards a door that led to the basement. Michelle followed her down the narrow, carpeted stairs. The light was dimmer here. The air was cooler. The basement was semi-finished, cluttered with boxes, old furniture, and the detritus of family life. It smelled faintly of dust and damp concrete. Dynel began rummaging through a plastic bin, pulling out a few faded baby items. See? I knew I had some things down here. Michelle stood by the bottom of the stairs, feeling a sudden, urgent need to leave. The initial unease was now a full-blown alarm bell clanging in her mind. This was wrong. Something was very wrong. You know what? That's okay, Michelle said, her voice firmer now. She took a step back towards the stairs. I really don't need anything else, but thank you so much for everything. Your home is lovely." She was trying to be polite, to smooth over the sudden, inexplicable tension. She turned to go. She never made it to the second step. Part 3. The Nightmare in the Basement. Chapter 5. The Spider. The attack came from behind, swift and shocking. As Michelle turned to leave, she felt a hard, sharp blow between her shoulder blades. It wasn't a punch, but a forceful shove with the flat of a palm. The impact knocked her off balance, sending her stumbling forward. Her first thought was utterly bizarre, a testament to how her mind was struggling to process the impossible. A spider. She thought there must have been a huge spider on her back, and Dynel had slapped it off. "Did I have a spider on me?" she asked, her voice a mixture of confusion and alarm as she caught her footing. "I think so," Dynel said, her voice tight and strange. "I think I got it." Then things accelerated into a nightmare. Dynel grabbed the back of Michelle's sweater, yanking her back with surprising strength. She spun Michelle around, away from the stairs, away from escape. Her friendly demeanor had vanished, replaced by a terrifying, blank-faced intensity. She began roughly pulling up Michelle's sweater, her hands scrabbling at her back. "What are you doing?" Michelle cried out, trying to twist away. The sympathy she had felt for this lonely woman evaporated, replaced by a primal fear. This wasn't kindness. This was aggression. Dynel's face contorted with a bewildering rage. "You hit me!" she shrieked, her voice suddenly shrill. "This is my house! What are you doing?" The accusation was so nonsensical, so utterly detached from reality, that Michelle's mind reeled. "What?" "I didn't touch you," she pleaded, her hands raised in a gesture of surrender. "I don't want to hurt you. Thank you for the baby clothes. I just want to leave." The words were useless. It was like reasoning with a force of nature. Dynel was no longer the lonely housewife. She was a predator, and the mask had come off. She shoved Michelle hard, trying to force her into a small bathroom off the main basement area. Michelle's survival instinct kicked in. She resisted, planting her feet, using her body as a brace against the doorframe. The thought of being trapped in that small, enclosed space was unbearable. "I didn't do anything," she yelled, her voice trembling. "Let me go!" The struggle was a blur of motion and terror. Dynel was surprisingly strong, fueled by a terrifying, manic energy. Michelle fought back, pushing and shoving, her mind screaming one coherent thought: Aurora. She had to protect her baby. She had to get out. "I'm calling the cops!" Dynel screamed, a wild, accusing glare in her eyes. It was another baffling, insane statement. She was the attacker, yet she was claiming to be the victim. The fight moved from the bathroom door into the main room. It was a clumsy, desperate struggle. They crashed into furniture. Michelle felt a sharp pain as her head hit something hard. She saw stars, her vision momentarily blurring. She could feel Dynel's hands on her, grabbing, clawing. Then, she felt a pressure around her neck. At first, she didn't understand what it was. Then the world began to shrink, the edges of her vision turning gray and fuzzy. Dynel was choking her. Michelle clawed at the hands, the arms, anything she could reach. Her lungs burned. Black spots danced in front of her eyes. She was losing. The life was being squeezed out of her. In that moment of fading consciousness, a strange, disjointed phrase echoed in her ears, spoken by Dynel in a chillingly calm voice. "If you love me, you'll let me do this." The words made no sense, but they were laced with a terrifying purpose. Then came a sharp, searing pain in her neck. Dynel had grabbed something, a glass bottle, a piece of a broken lamp, and stabbed her. The pain was electric, jolting her. She felt a warm, wet sensation spreading down her chest. Blood. Her blood. The world went dark. Chapter 6. The Call. Consciousness returned in ragged, painful waves. For a moment, Michelle didn't know where she was. She was lying on something soft, a bed in the basement. A profound, deep ache radiated through her entire body. Her neck throbbed with a fiery pain. Her head felt like it was splitting open. She tried to sit up, but a new, horrific sensation stopped her. Her lower abdomen felt wrong. There was a searing, deep-set agony, unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was a hollow, empty pain. She reached down, her hand trembling, and her fingers met a wet, sticky mess of blood and torn flesh. The realization crashed down on her with the force of a physical blow, a horror so immense it threatened to shatter her sanity. The baby. Aurora. She had been cut open. Her baby was gone. A sound escaped her lips, a raw, animalistic moan of grief and terror. Dynel was gone. The basement was quiet, except for the sound of her own ragged breathing. Blood was everywhere. On the bed, on the floor, on her clothes. A broken glass lava lamp lay shattered nearby, its edges stained crimson. A blood-stained kitchen knife was on a small table. Survival. The word was a single flickering candle in the all-consuming darkness of her horror. She had to live. She had to get help. Her phone. Where was her phone? She fumbled around, her movements sluggish and clumsy. She found it on the floor near the bed, the screen cracked but still glowing. Her fingers, slick with her own blood, struggled to dial the numbers. 911. The call connected. A calm, professional voice on the other end. Longmont 911, what is your emergency? Michelle's voice was a hoarse, weak whisper. Help me. I've been stabbed. The dispatcher, a woman named Beth, immediately grasped the gravity of the situation. Her voice remained calm, a lifeline for Michelle to cling to. Okay. Can you tell me where you are? Michelle struggled to form the words, to remember the address of the house she had entered only a lifetime ago. She managed to get it out, her voice breaking. Who did this to you? Beth asked, trying to keep her on the line, trying to keep her conscious. Can you tell me the person's name? I don't know, Michelle sobbed. She only knew her as Dee. The name felt like a cruel joke. Okay, stay with me, Beth urged. Don't go to sleep. Help is on the way. Can you tell me what happened? She stabbed me. She cut me. The words were punctuated by gasps for air. Are you pregnant? Beth asked, a standard question for a female victim of abdominal injury. The question ripped another sob from Michelle's throat. I was. She cut my baby out of me. A stunned silence on the other end of the line, just for a beat, before the professionalism kicked back in. The dispatcher's calm tone was now laced with a new urgency. She understood. This was not a simple assault. This was a crime of unimaginable brutality. Michelle could hear sirens in the distance, a faint, rising wail that was the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. She was fading. The blood loss was immense. The basement was growing darker, colder. They're almost there, Beth's voice said, a distant echo in her ears. Are they ringing the doorbell? I can't. I'm in the basement. She could hear them then, pounding on the door, shouting, Police! They're here, she whispered into the phone, her energy completely gone. They're here. The line went dead. Michelle closed her eyes, clutching her ravaged abdomen, and prayed. She prayed for her life, and she prayed for Aurora. Part Quarto. 2 hospitals. 1 crime. Chapter 7. The Arrival. Officer Billy Sawyer was the first to kick in the door. The trail of blood just inside the entryway told him they were in the right place. It led them down the narrow stairs into the basement. The scene that greeted them was one of controlled chaos and visceral horror. Michelle Wilkins was lying on a bed, pale as a ghost, her breath coming in shallow, rattling gasps. She was drenched in blood, clutching a towel to her stomach. The metallic smell of it hung thick and heavy in the air. Sawyer's training kicked in, pushing back the wave of shock. He radioed for paramedics, his voice tight with urgency. Female victim, multiple stab wounds, evisceration. We need EMS down here now. As the paramedics worked frantically to stabilize Michelle, the officers tried to piece together what had happened. Michelle, drifting in and out of consciousness, managed to whisper a few crucial details. She was pregnant. A woman named Dee had attacked her. She thought her baby had been cut from her womb. The officers exchanged grim, disbelieving glances. It was a crime scene from a horror movie, something so depraved it defied belief. They raced Michelle to Longmont United Hospital, her life hanging by a thread. The ER team descended on her, a flurry of controlled, expert motion. They were fighting a war on 2 fronts, the massive blood loss and the devastating internal injuries. As they worked, the story of what had happened to her spread through the hospital staff in hushed, horrified whispers. A fetal abduction. It was the stuff of nightmares. But just moments before Michelle's ambulance screamed into the hospital bay, another, far quieter drama had unfolded in the very same ER. A woman had walked in, looking dazed, her clothes spotted with blood. In her arms, she cradled a newborn baby girl, wrapped in a towel. Her fiancé was by her side, his face a mask of shock and concern. The woman was Dynel Lane. The man was Dave Ridley. "My wife," Dave said, his voice breathless. "She just gave birth at home, in the bathtub. Something's not right. The baby. She's not breathing." The ER staff sprang into action. They took the infant, a tiny, perfectly formed but tragically still baby girl, and rushed her to a resuscitation room. A separate team attended to Dynel. She seemed strangely calm, almost disconnected from the frantic activity around her. She had a few cuts on her hands, but otherwise appeared unharmed. When a doctor, an obstetrician named Dr. Nelson, came to examine her, Dynel recoiled. "I just want to check your uterus. Make sure you're not bleeding," the doctor explained gently. It was a routine postpartum check. "No," Dynel said, clutching the now empty towel to her chest. "Don't touch me." She refused the exam. She refused to let them start an IV. She refused to answer basic questions about her pregnancy. How far along was she? She didn't know. When was her due date? She couldn't remember. What time was the baby born? She wasn't sure. Her evasiveness was a red flag. Her physical condition was another. To the trained eyes of the ER staff, she did not look like a woman who had just given birth. There were none of the telltale signs. Her story, thin to begin with, was starting to unravel. The call came through from the police dispatch a few minutes later. An officer at the crime scene on Green Place had run the address. The apartment was registered to a Dynel Lane and David Ridley, the same Dynel Lane who was currently sitting in their ER, refusing a medical examination. The two separate, horrific events of the afternoon, a brutal assault and a stillborn home birth, were not separate at all. They had collided in this hospital. The puzzle pieces snapped into place with a sickening click. An investigator, Detective Stacy Graham, was dispatched to the hospital. She walked into Dynel's room, her face a neutral mask that betrayed none of the churning horror she felt. "Dynel," she said, her voice calm and even. "I've got a problem. We got a call to your apartment this afternoon. When we arrived, we found a young woman who had been injured. Very badly." Dynel looked at her, her eyes wide and blank. "At my house?" "Yes," Graham said, watching her reaction carefully. "She had a baby in her stomach that had been cut out." Dynel said nothing. She just stared. "That woman is here, in this hospital," the detective continued, her voice hardening slightly. "She arrived a few minutes after you did, and I don't believe that the baby you brought in here is yours." Chapter 8. The Collapsing Lie. Dave Ridley had left the hospital briefly to pick up Dynel's daughters from school, a mundane task that felt surreal in the context of the day's chaos. He returned to find a police officer standing guard outside Dynel's room. His confusion deepened. The investigators pulled him aside. They asked him to recount what had happened. Dave, still in shock, told them his story. He had come home that afternoon to take Dynel to a prenatal appointment, the one he had insisted upon. When he opened the door, he heard the shower running upstairs. He called out for her. She appeared at the top of the basement stairs, her body wrapped in a towel, her face pale. "I'm sorry," she'd said, her voice trembling. "It just happened. I had the baby." He had rushed up the stairs, his heart pounding with a mixture of terror and elation. He found her in the bathroom, cleaning herself up. And there, in the bathtub, was a tiny baby girl. He had scooped up the infant, wrapped her in a towel, and raced them both to the hospital, his mind a whirlwind. He never went into the basement. He never saw the horror that lay just a few feet away from where he stood. He was one step away from discovering the truth, but his focus was entirely on the woman and the baby he believed were his. As he told the story to the police, its fantastical elements became starkly apparent, even to him. A baby just appearing, with no labor, no warning. He had been so caught up in the moment, so overwhelmed by the sudden materialization of his dream, that he hadn't questioned it. Now, in the cold, sterile light of the hospital, under the questioning gaze of the police, the story sounded insane. Back in Dynel's room, the investigators pressed her. The lie, which she had protected for so long, was now a flimsy, transparent thing. Dynel, things just aren't adding up, Detective Graham said. You claim you just gave birth, but the doctors say that's not possible. You have cuts on your hands you can't explain. And we have a woman in the ICU who was found in your basement, cut open. Dynel began to cry. Soft, gulping sobs. I don't know what's going on, she whispered. I'm just as confused as you are. Is there a possibility that the DNA of the baby won't match yours? The detective asked, laying the trap. No, Dynel said, a flash of defiance in her eyes. She's mine. It was the last gasp of the lie. The detectives knew they had her. They told her about the blood tests, about the DNA evidence that would be irrefutable. They gave her one last chance to tell the truth. Now is the best time to admit what may have happened, Graham said softly. Because when those tests come back, it's going to look much, much worse for you. The fight went out of her. The edifice of deception she had spent more than a year constructing collapsed into rubble. She began to speak, her voice low and broken. And the story that tumbled out was a twisted, self-serving confession of unimaginable violence. She claimed Michelle had attacked her. She said they had fought, that she had been defending herself. I finally had her down, Dynel whispered, her eyes fixed on the hospital blanket. And she wouldn't stop flailing. So I choked her. She paused, taking a shaky breath. After she stopped moving, I got scared. I thought I killed her. I thought about the baby. I didn't want the baby to die too. Her voice was filled with a grotesque, misplaced pity. So I got the knife and I cut her baby out. She had confessed. She had admitted to the act. The investigators listened, their faces impassive, as she recounted taking the baby upstairs, placing her in the bathtub, and then greeting her husband with the greatest lie of her life. Whose baby did he think it was? An officer asked. Ours, Dynel whispered. The word hung in the sterile air of the hospital room. A final, damning testament to the depths of her deception. She wasn't a mother. She was a monster who had torn a family apart to feed her own desperate, selfish fantasy. Part 5. Voices from the Wreckage. Chapter 9. The Survivor. For 2 weeks, Michelle Wilkins existed in a fog of pain, medication, and grief. She drifted in and out of a medically induced haze in the ICU, her body a battleground. Surgeons had worked for hours to repair the devastating damage Dynel had inflicted. They had pieced her back together, but the wounds were more than just physical. The first thing she felt when she truly woke up was the emptiness. The familiar, comforting weight of her baby was gone. The phantom kicks and flutters she had grown so accustomed to were silenced. Her hands instinctively went to her stomach, tracing the angry, stapled line of the incision. It was a brutal mockery of a C-section scar, a jagged reminder of all she had lost. Dan was there, his face etched with a pain that mirrored her own. He held her hand, his touch a grounding force in her sea of sorrow. He was the one who had to tell her the final, heartbreaking news. Aurora had not survived. The official cause of death was uncertain. Had she died during the assault or moments after being torn from the womb? It was a question that would never be answered. They had been given a few precious, tragic moments with their daughter. The hospital staff had cleaned her, dressed her in a tiny donated outfit, and let them hold her. She was beautiful, they said. Perfect. 3 pounds of hope and dreams that would never be realized. The grief was a physical force, an ocean that threatened to drown her. It came in waves, a crushing, suffocating weight. But beneath the grief, another emotion began to stir, a quiet, steely resolve. She had survived. Against all odds, she was alive, and she knew she had to speak. She had to tell her story, not just for herself, but for Aurora. Nearly 2 weeks after the attack, she sat down with the detectives. She was still weak, her body a roadmap of her ordeal, but her voice was clear and strong. She recounted the events of March 18th with a harrowing, lucid detail. She talked about the Craigslist ad, the friendly emails, the seemingly normal woman who had welcomed her into her home. She seemed so lonely, Michelle said, her voice catching. I just felt sorry for her. She described the conversation, the way Dynel had kept her there, talking and talking. She remembered the moment the door clicked shut, the cold knot of fear in her stomach, and she told them about the attack in the basement, the confusion, the terror, the desperate fight for her life and the life of her child. I just kept asking, why? She whispered, tears streaming down her face. The whole time it was happening, I just wanted to know why she was doing this. Her account was the final, crucial piece of the puzzle. It systematically dismantled the self-defense narrative Dynel had tried to construct. Michelle was not an aggressor. She was a victim, lured into a trap by a predator masquerading as a friend. Her testimony gave a voice to the evidence police had collected at the scene. The blood spatter, the broken lamp, the knife. It painted a complete, horrifying picture of a premeditated and savage ambush. Speaking was an act of immense courage. Reliving the trauma was excruciating, but it was also an act of reclaiming her own narrative. She would not be defined by what Dynel Lane had done to her. She was a survivor, and her story would be the one that was remembered. It would be the truth that sent a monster to prison. And it would be a testament to the daughter she had loved so fiercely, even if only for a few short months. Her name was Aurora, and her mother would make sure the world never forgot her. Chapter 10. The Deceived. The shockwave from Dynel's crime radiated outward, devastating not only Michelle and Dan, but also the people closest to Dynel herself. They were victims of a different kind, caught in the crossfire of a lie so monstrous it defied comprehension. Dave Ridley's world had been obliterated. The woman he loved, the woman he had planned to build a family with, was a stranger. The child he had grieved for, the one he thought was his for a few chaotic hours, was the product of a brutal, violent crime. He was forced to confront a horrifying reality. He had been living in a meticulously constructed fantasy. In his interviews with the police, his confusion and pain were palpable. He recounted the year of deception, the phantom pregnancy of James, the renewed hope of the second pregnancy. He spoke of his growing suspicions, the missed appointments, the vague excuses. He had known, on some level, that something was wrong, but he had never, in his wildest nightmares, imagined the truth. He told police about the ultimatum, the deadline that had pushed Dynel to her breaking point. The knowledge that his own actions had inadvertently set the stage for the tragedy was a burden he would have to carry forever. He had been a pawn in her twisted game. His desire for a child used as a weapon against an innocent woman. He had slept next to a monster and never known it. Dynel's 2 teenage daughters were cast adrift in the wreckage of their mother's life. They were brought to the police station, confused and scared, having returned from school to find their home transformed into a crime scene. In their interviews, they spoke of a mother who was loving but distant, a woman they thought they knew but who was now a stranger on the news. They too had been deceived. They had believed in the pregnancies. They had been excited about getting a baby brother. The oldest daughter spoke of the rescheduled appointment on the 18th. The one she believed was to induce labor. The youngest, in a heartbreakingly simple written statement, captured the bewildered pain of it all. This whole thing is pretty weird. I just wish I knew what is happening. I just want to go home and have a normal life again. But a normal life was gone forever, stolen by the actions of their mother. Investigators spoke to Dynel's friends, ex-husbands, and family, piecing together the timeline of her life and her lies. Her first husband, Jason, spoke of the devastating loss of their son, the event that had irrevocably changed her. That's a mother losing a child, he said. It's going to mess with her. Her second husband, Chris, provided a critical piece of information. Dynel had told him, years ago, that her tubes were tied. She couldn't have children. He remembered her wistfully saying they would have had a cute baby, a statement that was now chilling in its implications. The investigation revealed the depth and breadth of her deceit. She had told her coworkers at a job she didn't have that she was pregnant. She had created baby registries online. She had cultivated an entire fictional life, and she had dragged everyone she knew into it. One of the most disturbing revelations came from a community Facebook group. A friend of Dave's, concerned by his suspicions, had posted about the sketchy pregnancy. The post had caught the attention of a bereavement doula who had posted a chillingly prescient warning. This is a red flag. If she's desperate, she may do the unmentionable and harm the mother and take the baby. She had been ostracized from the group for her comment, accused of being alarmist, but she had been right. The warning signs had been there, hidden in plain sight, dismissed as drama or exaggeration. But the truth was far darker than anyone had been willing to believe. Part 6. Justice and Aftermath. Chapter 11. The Trial. The trial of Dynel Lane began in February 2016. The Boulder County courtroom was packed, the air thick with a mixture of morbid curiosity and somber reverence for the gravity of the crimes being discussed. Dynel Lane, dressed in civilian clothes, sat beside her defense attorneys, her face a pale, emotionless mask. She pleaded not guilty. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Stan Garnett, methodically laid out their case. They presented the jury with a mountain of evidence. The chilling 911 call, the crime scene photos, the blood-stained knife, the DNA evidence that proved conclusively that Aurora was Michelle's child. They called first responders to the stand, seasoned veterans who described the scene in the basement as the most horrific they had ever witnessed. The defense was faced with an impossible task. The evidence was overwhelming. They could not deny what Dynel had done. Instead, they attempted to argue that the attack was not premeditated, but a spontaneous, frenzied act. They tried to portray it as a hot-blooded assault rather than a cold, calculated plan to commit murder and steal a child. The distinction was critical, as a charge of attempted first-degree murder required proof of deliberation and intent. But the prosecution's narrative was far more compelling. They painted a picture of a desperate woman trapped in a web of lies, facing an ultimatum from her partner. They presented her internet search history as a digital roadmap of her intent, showing her research into C-sections and human anatomy. They argued that the Craigslist ad was not an act of charity, but a baited trap. The emotional core of the trial came when Michelle Wilkins took the stand. She walked to the witness box with a quiet dignity, her composure a testament to her incredible strength. In a clear, steady voice, she recounted her story for the jury. She looked directly at Dynel Lane as she described the friendly conversation that had turned into a life-or-death struggle. The courtroom was silent, captivated by her testimony. Her pain, her loss, and her resilience were palpable. She was not just a victim, she was a survivor, and her testimony was a powerful indictment of the woman who had tried to destroy her. Dave Ridley also testified, his voice heavy with regret and sorrow. He told the jury about the lies, the ultimatum, and the chaotic hours at the hospital. His testimony underscored the calculated nature of Dynel's deception and the desperate lengths she had gone to in order to maintain it. After a week of testimony, the case went to the jury. They deliberated for just a few hours. The verdict was swift and decisive. Guilty on all counts. Attempted first-degree murder. Unlawful termination of a pregnancy. Multiple counts of assault. As the verdicts were read, a wave of relief washed over Michelle and her family. Dynel Lane remained impassive, betraying no emotion. At the sentencing hearing, Michelle was given the opportunity to address the court and to address Dynel directly. She spoke of Aurora, of the daughter she would never know. She spoke of the physical and emotional scars she would carry for the rest of her life. But she also spoke of forgiveness, not for Dynel's sake, but for her own, as a way to release herself from the burden of hate. The judge, calling the crime brutal, vicious, and cruel, sentenced Dynel Lane to 100 years in prison, the maximum possible sentence. It was a sentence that ensured she would never again be free to harm another person. Justice had been served, but it was a hollow victory. It could not bring back Aurora. It could not erase the scars. It could only close a chapter on a nightmare. Chapter 12. The Echoes. The case of Dynel Lane and Michelle Wilkins is more than just a shocking true crime story. It is a profound and disturbing exploration of trauma, deception, and the darkest corners of the human psyche. It serves as a stark case study of a rare but terrifying phenomenon known as fetal abduction. From a psychological perspective, Dynel Lane's actions appear to be the culmination of a long-festering pathology, rooted in the unresolved trauma of her son's death. That tragedy seems to have fractured her sense of self and her ability to cope with loss. Instead of processing her grief, she allowed it to metastasize into a desperate, all-consuming need for a replacement child. A need so powerful that it overrode all moral and rational boundaries. Her phantom pregnancies were a manifestation of this pathological need. They were elaborate, long-term fantasies that allowed her to live in a world where she was not a grieving, broken mother, but a happy, expectant one. This is a characteristic of fetal abduction by cesarean section offenders, who often engage in elaborate schemes to simulate pregnancy to convince a partner or family of their impending motherhood. The lie becomes their reality. When Dave Ridley's ultimatum threatened to shatter that reality, Dynel did not abandon the fantasy. Instead, she chose to make the fantasy real through an act of horrific violence. In her mind, Michelle Wilkins was not a person, not a fellow mother-to-be, but an obstacle, a vessel carrying the object of her obsession. The depersonalization of her victim was a necessary psychological step to allow her to commit such an unspeakable act. Her claim of self-defense during her confession was a final, pathetic attempt to reframe her predatory actions as a reaction to a threat, a way to absolve herself of the monstrous truth. She was the hunter, and Michelle was the prey she had lured into her trap. For Michelle Wilkins, the aftermath has been a long and arduous journey of healing. She has endured dozens of surgeries to repair the physical damage, but the emotional and psychological scars run much deeper. The loss of Aurora is a wound that will never fully heal, yet through it all, she has emerged as an extraordinary voice for survivors of trauma. She has refused to be defined by her victimhood. She has dedicated her life to advocacy, speaking out about her experience, and working to help others navigate the labyrinth of grief and recovery. Her resilience is a powerful testament to the strength of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable darkness. She has found a way to honor Aurora's memory by transforming her own pain into a source of hope and healing for others. The echoes of the 18th of March 2015 will reverberate forever in the lives of all who were touched by the tragedy. It is a story that serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can hide behind a smiling, friendly face and the vulnerability that comes with our most basic human instinct to trust one another. But it is also a story of incredible survival, of the power of truth, and of a mother's undying love for a daughter she never got to raise, but will carry in her heart forever. Part 1. The Hunger. Chapter 1. The Haunting. It did not begin with a scream, but with the silence that follows one. It was a lie born in the graveyard of a mother's heart, a phantom seed planted in the poisoned soil of an unbearable grief. 12 years before the blood stained the basement floor, the world had cracked open for Dynel Lane. It happened on an afternoon painted with the deceptive tranquility of suburbia, an afternoon that would forever smell of cut grass and death. Her son, a whirlwind of 18-month-old energy, had danced at the edge of her vision. For a few scant minutes, the time it takes to answer a phone call, to stir a pot on the stove, he was gone. It was an oversight any parent could make, a fleeting, forgivable lapse. But the universe does not forgive. In that sliver of stolen time, Dynel's world didn't just tilt, it shattered. They found him floating in the family pond, a small, perfect doll in the green, murky water, his laughter extinguished forever. The coroner's report read accidental drowning, but for Dynel, it was an execution, and she was both the condemned and the executioner. That day became the genesis of a new, monstrous self. Guilt became her religion. It was the air she choked on, the bitter sacrament she took with every meal. In the dead of night, when the house was still, she could feel the ghost weight of his small, waterlogged body in her arms. She could hear her own desperate, useless pleas to a silent, mocking sky as she forced air into his lifeless lungs. The loss was not merely of a child. It was a fundamental amputation of her soul, excising the part of her that had ever believed in safety, in order, in her own capacity as a protector. Her first husband, Jason, father to her 2 daughters, and the boy who now lived only in photographs, watched her build a fortress of sorrow and lock herself inside. He threw himself against its walls. But grief is a fortress with no doors. Their shared tragedy did not unite them. It became a mode of silence and recrimination that drowned their marriage. She wore the memory of her son's death like a burial shroud, a dark veil through which she viewed the world, and it poisoned every choice she made thereafter. A second marriage, to a man named Chris, was a frantic, doomed attempt to outrun the ghost that shared her bed. It was here, in this flight from her own past, that she made a choice that would seal not only her own fate, but that of a stranger yet to be met. Her husband did not want more children, and perhaps a part of Dynel, the part that had failed so catastrophically, agreed. She had her fallopian tubes severed and cauterized. The procedure was a physical scar that mirrored the one on her soul. The door to motherhood was not just closed, it was welded shut, a final, sterile surrender. But a barren womb does not mean a barren heart. The hunger remained. After her marriage to Chris dissolved, she met David Ridley. Dave was a good man, a simple man, who saw not a shattered woman haunted by ghosts, but a vessel for his own simple dreams. He wanted a family. More than that, he craved a son. He spoke in futures of teaching a boy to throw a baseball, of first steps and scraped knees, of a name to carry on after he was gone. To the starving woman that Dynel had become, his dreams were a feast. To give him a child would be more than a gift. It would be a resurrection. It would be the ultimate act of alchemy, transforming her from a failed mother into a creator of life. It would be proof, to him and to the ghost in the pond, that she was not defined by death. And so, the lie took its first breath. It started not with a bang, but a whisper. A missed period she faked. A carefully orchestrated performance of morning sickness. Dave, a man so blinded by his own desires, saw only what he desperately wanted to see. The lie was a seed, and his yearning was the rain. And the Sunday, he watered it with his hope, tended it with his love. The phantom pregnancy of 2014 was a meticulous, chilling dress rehearsal for the horror to come. She ballooned her belly with pillows and clever posture. She mastered the serene, beatific smile of the Madonna, one hand resting lovingly on the void beneath her clothes. She populated her Facebook page with grainy, anonymous sonogram photos plundered from the internet, a digital grave robbing of someone else's joy. She gave the ghost a name, James. Her teenage daughters, desperate for a salve for their own inherited wound, became unwitting actors in her play. Friends and family, ignorant of the surgical finality in her womb, threw a jungle-themed baby shower. Dynel posed for photos, cutting a cake that screamed, "Welcome, James," in cheerful blue icing, the lie a palpable presence in the room. But even a phantom pregnancy must adhere to the laws of time. November, the due date, arrived like a death knell. The questions began. Polite whispers that grew into a chorus of concern. "He's just stubborn," she'd trill, her smile stretched taut over a rising panic. December came, and with it, Dave's mounting anxiety. His dream was a phantom limb, an ache for something that wasn't there. Dynel became a virtuoso of deception, a weaver of